What up, everyone? So, we just got back from the premiere of Captain America Civil War. So we're going to do just like we did before and do a little review on it, get some discussion going, talk in the comments, talk about things we like, but we'll give you our impressions and give a little review of it. So, let's start off right away with first impressions. Mr. David.
I loved it. I thought it was the best superhero film I've ever seen.
Good. I mean, yeah, I liked it too. I don't know, I haven't given it enough thought to say like it's definitely the best one ever, but it definitely didn't disappoint. Everyone's expectations were pretty high of it, and I don't think it disappointed. It did a little better than what I thought, and I was already super excited for it. There were a ton of moments in there that were absolutely fantastic. It had a lot to it. It was a little shorter than I thought.
It's kind of long. Maybe this seems short. It was like 2.5 hours, I think.
No, it was only 2 hours.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like almost exactly 2 hours because the credits were so long. Because in those movies, there's so many people. Because I remember seeing the runtime was 2:20.
I think it's the longest running Marvel film.
Lengthwise?
Lengthwise, yeah. They said it's the longest running runtime.
But is that including the credits though?
I don't know I don't know how they do determine it.
Yeah, the only thing I wouldn't say I was disappointed about whatsoever, but the only thing I was surprised about is that it ended so abruptly, and the fact that like I thought there was going to come more to a resolution, but I think they're trying more to segue into Avengers 3 is what they're trying to do, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but I thought it was going to be like the whole Civil War story, like beginning to end, conflict resolution, and then Avengers 3 was going to happen. But I think this is trying to transition into that because it ends like with no real conflict or anything like that, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's an ending, but it does, oh, by the way, there will be spoilers.
Yeah, there's spoilers, yes.
But, yeah, I don't know, I try to go off my initial reaction when I walk out of the theater and while I'm in the theater. Never was bored once. The entire thing keeps your attention, and I was watching it, and it was great. I just loved it.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't give it enough praise.
It's really stupid to say, but there's times in the movie where I got goosebumps. I got goosebumps like it's several times in the movie where it's like woo, and there was a bunch of times where I think there was a lot of rumors floating around that someone was gonna die in this, and we were all speculating who. And I think they wanted it that way. I think they intentionally wanted it like that because there's a bunch of times where someone's about to die and you're like, here it is, it's gonna happen. And they don't, and it's like, okay, understandable.
Before going in, I was thinking, not writing, but in my head I was thinking, okay, I thought for sure War Machine was going to die. I was like, I'm pretty sure that Don Cheadle's done, they're getting rid of him, I'm pretty sure he's going to die, but...
And it made sense because he was enough of a main character to evoke emotion if he died, but he wasn't so main part of it where it'd be okay if he moved on. Kind of like Quicksilver. He was a main character and he definitely played a part, but it was okay to pass him on. And I'm not sure if he's permanently dead. It seems like common to revitalize characters, so he may research somehow, but so far he's the only one that's like died.
Yeah.
As far as heroes go.
I think so. Actually.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And that's not even totally confirmed. I think they wanted to leave it that way. But the whole thing was there's a lot of suspense that you thought Don Cheadle was going to die for sure. And there was even a split second where I thought Iron Man was going to die. Like
really?
That ending fight scene where I didn't think he was going to die, but I thought he was going to get like really like fucked up. Like when he knocked his mask off and he was about to take his face out, it was like, okay.
I thought he was going to pull it back, but then he hit him in the little chest thing. Yeah. I thought he was going to pull it back and then decide not to. But I thought, on the other side, I thought Hawkeye was going to die. I was like, okay, he's been in like a ton already, because Joss Whedon said he wanted to kill off Hawkeye in Avengers 2. That's why they set up the whole family, the emotion, but then at the very end they decided to kill Quicksilver instead.
Yeah, I think Hawkeye's too popular because he wasn't in the first one that much, and there was a big outrage about how he wasn't in the movie enough, and that's why he had such a presence in number 2, so I didn't think he would have gone away. I would have been fine with that. He's not my favorite character. He could have passed on him. I was kind of surprised he was in the movie, though. He was just kind of there a lot of the time. He was fine. He made a great addition to it. Like, he did a good job, but I didn't really realize he was going to like even be in it. Like, I wouldn't have noticed if he wasn't.
One of the best things I will say that they did was they really knew how to balance everyone's powers. Yeah. So no one was like too overpowerful, even though like, someone like the Vision is, but the way they made him like fight and everything like that, it worked perfectly. Like the powers this like somehow blended and everything, worked out. I was like really surprised. All the action scenes, everyone's powers is like somehow blended in this perfect way, and it worked.
Which is really hard to do because people got to realize like most of these comics are made in a time where it didn't matter. Like anything could happen, no one really needed it. But now that it's in cinema, it's obviously fiction, but it still needs to be believable. Like obviously people have superpowers and that would never happen, but it's still the things that happen need to follow the laws of physics and science for the most part in the movie. So they did do a good job of that, and they did balance it out, because otherwise it's always something awkward, like in Batman Superman where Batman's just like, okay, now I just don't want to kill you, and it's like, all right, well, I guess you don't have to, but yeah, there was a lot of times where I'm like, man, like someone seems like they're gonna win here, and then something happens where they balance it out. And it seemed like good in like the last fight scene, like with Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man. Like Iron Man could easily take on one of them, but they balanced it out where it was like, okay, where it was just like barely one was just kind of winning, and then one's just kind of winning. And then the way it ended, I'm like, oh, I kind of didn't see that like happening a little bit. Like, okay,
it was good.
And it really was like kind of an emotional movie. There was some like really intense parts in it, which I knew going into it. Like that's kind of what they wanted to do. There's this big conflict, which I really liked. I liked that there's like an emotional part to the story. So it really makes you connected with the characters.
Yeah, one of the things I did like that they did was, which I didn't see in Batman v Superman, but was you really can see both sides of the argument. Like going in, you see Tony Stark's side makes perfect sense. Cap's side makes perfect sense. They both make sense, but they're the exact opposite, and so that's why they clash. And the way they set that up and the way they executed it was perfect. Like every character in there, the way they acted was very believable. And you're like, okay, I could see the Vision acting like this. I could see him picking this side. I could see him going like this. And then all the way through the entire movie, it was just like everything made sense, like for the characters, and that was really cool.
And the way they set it up was really good. The way they kind of made the story come full circle was really good. And that's just like good writing there. Like that's where it's like Disney's has their full power, and they really put some good writing there. Because it starts off with Tony like getting this immense grief, which I'm sure he's gotten. He's talked about in all his movies, like he feels this grief for what he does and the repercussions of it. So that makes sense why he would immediately choose one side. And then Cap's going off more the emotional side because it's his friend. And it's like, you see the balance, but then at the end, it flips around. Then now Tony's on the emotional side. Now he's fighting for his emotions, and they're fighting for logic. So it's good how both sides got twisted, and it was just cool how it came full circle. And the story, it kind of towards the middle when they first met that guy, Dr. what's his name with a Z? Zemo. So when they met him, it was like, this seems like a stupid story, and like how they put it together. And then it kind of made sense when they showed him the video, and it's like, okay. All right, now it makes sense.
There's one part where Zemo has this Grandmaster plan, and it opens up, and then you're like, I was thinking in my head, I was just going like, oh man, that's such a weak plan. Like the film, it seemed like a throwaway. But then at the very end, you see Zemo and Black Panther, and they're talking about it, and you're like, wow, that makes really good sense.
Yeah.
Like his plan actually makes really good sense. And I'm like, okay, never mind. I take back my original thought.
So, do you know the origin of Zemo? Like, what he was in the comics? Like, what he originally was and what part he plays in the Marvel storyline? Because in the movie, it kind of seems like he's just a random dude, but I know there's more to it than that.
Okay, there's two Zemos. There's Zemos that fought Captain America in, like, the 40s when, before he was frozen on ice and stuff like that, and he worked for Hydra, and he was, like, a high-up Hydra person, like a Red Skull type thing. Anyways, he got older, and his son or grandson wanted to fulfill his legacy, and so that's Zemo, the one in this one. So he's younger in current times. In the comic books, he takes a super serum and he becomes super strong and super smart, and he's just like kind of like a Red Skull type of thing, so to speak. In this one, he just seemed. I mean, they just kind of used him in name.
Yeah.
In the comic books, he works for Hydra, and originally he works for Hydra and stuff like that, and he has this...
maybe they will do that with him, because that sounds like a decent story. I don't know why they wouldn't exploit that at least a little bit. So, obviously, he didn't die, and he tried to kill himself and got stopped, so maybe he will end up doing that.
He did say... Remember he said at the end, they're like, oh, your plan didn't work, by Bobo Baggins?
Yeah.
Martin Freeman, I think his name is.
Bilbo.
Yeah, and he's like, or did it? He did say that, because his whole plan was to divide the Avengers. which now they're divided.
Yeah.
For the most part. So, which makes me think that Thanos has this grand master plan where he's dividing the Avengers, because divide and conquer, it's easier to, kill one at a time than all of them. So I think that might play into. I don't know. I'm just speculating at that point.
And you were saying in the Avengers, the 2 parts that is Avengers 3, you said they officially announced that every single Marvel hero will make an appearance?
Everyone that's in. I mean, not maybe on screen all at once, but in the span of 2 movies that they have, everyone that's pretty much in the Marvel universe is going to, be in those movies. So like Guardians of the Galaxy, all those people will be in it. Everyone that's obviously alive or, of most importance,
That's what gets me so excited, when teams are already established and then they come together. Like when Avengers 1 was coming out and all the movies came to one, like I was shitting myself, I was so excited. And Avengers 2 was awesome, but they didn't really do that. They only introduced like a handful of new characters, not that many, which they didn't need to. It was still a good movie, but there just wasn't that same excitement.
I honestly think this was a better Avengers movie than Avengers 2.
Oh, I totally agree, and that's why I've been making the joke.
I think it even had more Avengers.
That's what I'm saying. Like everyone, I keep calling it Avengers on accident, but if people need to realize it's actually a Captain America 3. Most people don't realize it's Captain America 3.
Which he is the main focus. So don't go in there and think he's not. He's pretty much the main focus. Like he's pretty much on screen like 80% of the film.
But yeah, it's essentially, I've been calling it Avengers 2.5, because that's pretty much what it is. Because the whole story behind it was, there was supposed to be a Captain America 3, whatever the original story was going to be, and then they offered Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man 4, but he turned that down to do Civil War. Because that was the agreement. Because they could have done 2 separate films. He's like, no, I won't do Iron Man 4, because Pepper Potts, the actual player, didn't want to do it anyway, and like a bunch of people didn't want to do it, so they had chose to do Civil War, which I thought was a fantastic choice. It's really good storyline.
He actually said now he doesn't even, once the mask is closed, he's not in the costume anymore.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big complaints. He didn't like being in that costume, doing all that stuff. So now it's like someone else does it while he's in the costume. And a lot of stuff when he's like has the mask off and he's just the full suit.
It's screen like bodysuit.
Yeah, he says he only has like football type pads, like shoulder pads, and everything else is CGI.
You can kind of tell, actually. It's not that it was bad CG, but you can kind of tell that it's like his head planted there. Like under the scene where he's before the big battle, when he's just talking to Cap, walking around, you can kind of tell. But I kind of figured it was something.
But I think that was one of the conditions he didn't want to do. And they're like, okay, whatever, sure, as long as you're in the movie.
Yeah, fine with me.
And he's gonna be in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh, he is.
He is. He's confirmed.
Is that what it's called, Spider-Man: Homecoming?
Yes, it has like a double meaning, like he's finally home, Spider-Man's home with Marvel, and that.
Oh my god!
And it's like high school.
Oh, okay, all right. What's part is he playing?
He's gonna be Tony Stark in it. I don't think he's gonna be Iron Man. Kind of like in the movie how he was Tony Stark talking to Peter Parker and blah blah.
Yeah,
he's gonna like mentor him and stuff like that.
Maybe that's where the Iron Spider finally comes out. Maybe they'll do that. I don't know.
He just got this suit.
True. Okay. Yeah. No, I was so excited to see Spider-Man. Like
he was good.
I was so happy to see him. Like he played a great part. He fit in perfectly, and it's just so funny to see him there because you're so used to him not being part of Marvel anymore. But it was just so funny to see him there. Like it was that got me so excited. That was my favorite part. Same with Ant-Man too. I totally forgot that he was part of it because he's so separate from everything. And then he showed up. I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool too. Like I'm glad he's there too.
Yeah, and they have like a big, huge fight scene with all of them. And you think, oh, it's going to be quick. It was long. It was and everyone was fighting, and it was just like, it was long.
And it was even, and it's like, and it's cool because you see like one-on-one fights, and then someone else jumps in, and then it trades off, and there was just called this roundabout thing. And it was like, wow, like, they must have worked hard to like choreograph this whole fight scene. And it was good. Like,
there was really a lot of fight scenes too, a lot of action. There's probably like 6 main fight scenes that were long. That were good fight scenes. Like I remember because in Captain America: Winter Soldier, there was a really good one at the beginning there, and there was a couple minor ones. Usually that's how it is. Like one at the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end. Yeah. But this is like through the whole thing. Yeah. Crossbones is barely in it, but he serves his purpose. I never thought he was going to be the villain to begin with. I thought he was. I'm not sure why, but maybe that's just how the trailers made him look. The good thing that Marvel did, unlike DC with, I'm not hating on DC, but that one trailer where they basically showed you the whole movie on Batman v Superman, Doomsday and everything. When I saw the Civil War ones, I barely saw anything. All I'd ever see is like, oh, it shows Black Panther, oh, it shows Spider-Man, and it shows Crossbones. And so that's basically all you know, and that's such a small part. It's such a way bigger movie than that.
Yeah, I was happy the way it all fit together, and the fight scenes were all great. Like overall, like definitely a good movie. So have they talked about at all how this segues into Avengers 3? Like what the storyline, have they decided any of that yet, or is it still pretty up in the air depending on what the movies do? Like,
well, Avengers 3 comes out when, like
17, I think. Or no, it's 2018 and 19 or 19 and 20. I think it's 18, 19.
I think it's 18, 19.
Yeah.
So they have Doctor Strange, which is at the end of this year.
November.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be kind of like the Ant-Man, out away from everyone else.
Yeah.
Then they got Guardians 2 next year.
Which is 2017, I think it's in August.
And I think that is just gonna, I think Thanos is gonna be in that a little bit, and they'll probably find the other gem.
I think there's 2 more than you
I think they'll find one in Doctor Strange, and then one in Guardians. And then after that is, I know they had Inhumans, but they canceled that.
They did?
Yeah.
They canceled Inhumans? Why?
They canceled because they're doing Inhumans in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. And the whole reason why they did it, I forget why. They wanted to do Inhumans for like some reason, but then it wasn't really panning out, and they did it in the TV show, and then they're like, Kevin Feige was never really on board with it the whole time, and so he thinks, oh, that's what it was. Ant-Man did so well that they're like, why do Inhumans when we can do an Ant-Man? And they just didn't want to bring in the Inhumans just yet.
So yeah, they'll probably do it after Avengers 3 when they're doing Phase 4 and the new teams are forming.
Because I think Ant-Man 2 comes out, and that's taking the place of Inhumans, and they have Spider-Man as well. So that's taking. So they're just like, we don't really want to do it.
That's too bad. I was actually pretty excited for it. It seemed like a pretty legit team. Like it seemed like very interesting.
Yeah, it does. I think they want to save that for after Avengers 1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that'll be their Phase 4.
Yeah, they're adding too many characters. They got to kill some off and redo some stuff. And
I don't know how they're going to do that, but this is my thought. You know how there's like the Reality Stone or Gem or whatever it is? Mm-hmm. I think they're going to, like, in the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos kills like half the Marvel Universe, and then Nebula gets the gauntlet back and restores everything. I think they're going to kill everyone and then restore it. And then, what if they did this? What if when they restored it, everyone's like, so there's still Tony Stark as Iron Man, but he's a different actor now because the Reality Gem just kind of switched everything around.
Yeah,
that's the one way to do it.
And it seems like a cheesy way to do it, but at the same time, it's like, well, what else are they going to do? Like,
the only thing they could do is like not kill them off, but get rid of those characters for a while, do a bunch of other ones, and bring them back. Because eventually you have to bring back Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, but you can't have Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth like playing these until they're like 90 years old.
But I think they're going to do just like they did with the comic, like Thor is going to become the Lady Thor, and Captain America is going to be Bucky now, and he might do his own spin-off of movies, and then Spider-Man becomes Miles Morales, and Tony Stark's going to be like the young Tony Stark, like a predecessor of some sort. Like, I think that's what they're going to have to do to some extent, because I doubt Marvel's going to reboot anything. Like, I don't see them finding a reason to reboot. I doubt they're going to get through Phase 3 and be like, start over. Like, I don't think they would do that. They have too much under their belt. They have too much momentum. They can do anything. They can pick any no-name team and make them famous and popular. So I think I wouldn't see them any reason.
I heard that Fantastic Four and all their properties went back to Marvel.
Really?
Like Galactus and Silver Surfer.
That'd be great.
I heard that, because, the last one bombed. And I think they probably just like cut a deal, something like that, because there's been rumors going around that when Phase 4 comes around, they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four. Or at least...
That'd be great. I'd love that.
Do it right.
Yeah.
For once.
I'd love to have all those characters back. Same with X-Men. I'd love them to see Marvel do X-Men, because X-Men was one of the first hero movies. It was like the first like main one to open the gates for us back in 99 or 2000 or whatever.
Yeah,
which
like
they started all, but they've never really done a good job translating characters like Marvel has. Fox did it, and they're fine. They're good movies, but I don't know. The way X-Men always comes across, the characters are always a little bit awkward. Like, they never really did like a full makeover of him, whereas like Marvel made everything cool. Like most of the characters that Marvel's done, I didn't like before, but now I like them because of the movies.
They keep it close to the source material. Like, just look at like Spider-Man's suit. It's the closest to the source material as all of them.
Whereas X-Men, they made them all in like black jumpsuits and stuff like that, which is fine. Like at the time, like it would have looked
Wolverine's
stupid.
never been in his costume.
I know that's what I'm saying. If it was Marvel, they would have put him in his costume and made a cool way to do it, like they did with Spider-Man, where it would have been like one of the harder suits, not like a spandex thing or anything like that, where they would have found a way to make it cool but make it look like the original,
but I don't think,
which Fox doesn't do.
I don't think Fox will ever release the rights. They're making like $1 billion off of the X-Men franchise. I mean, look at Deadpool. That was like almost $1 billion.
Yeah, with Deadpool, yeah,
and stuff like that. So they're not gonna. I don't think they're.
I just think they're gonna have to run out, and they're gonna have to keep rebooting and recycling. Like because they don't have much where to go. Like after this next X-Men movie, like I don't know, they're either gonna have to reboot or just start adding new characters.
Well, I think that's why they have the young Cyclops and Jubilee and all that, and they'll be the next wave of people.
Then just retell the stories of the movies.
I don't know, just retell something. But what do you think of the new characters in this Civil War?
New characters is in new introduced characters or reintroduced? Like Spider-Man and stuff? Or
Spider-Man, Black Panther.
I thought they did a good job of it. And I was going to say they don't explain that much about Black Panther, which they're not going to because he has his own movie coming up, so that'll make sense. But yeah, you don't know much about him. Like, you assume that his suit's made of vibranium because where he's from, and obviously you see bullets deflecting off him, and you see his little claws, and then you assume he's just like a master of some kind of martial arts because he was kicking ass, and he has some really good moves. So I guess that's mostly it. As far as I know, does Black Panther have any sort of powers? Like, does he?
He uses technology-based stuff.
Okay.
So he's like, imagine like an Iron Man type suit.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seemed like. Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, he doesn't fly around and shoot stuff, but like he has gadgets and whatever he uses, and he has like his suit. But he doesn't have, I think he's pretty much like a normal guy according to the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Normal guy is pretty spectacular.
Yeah. So yeah, and then the people that played a bigger part, like Scarlet Witch and stuff, she did a lot. I actually
liked Scarlet Witch and Vision.
Yeah. And that she seems like a very powerful character. From what they were showing, she seems like one of the strongest of all the Avengers. Like, she seems like she has the most potential and power.
Her and Vision are the strongest.
Yeah.
Power-wise. But they really, they're hinting at, because in the comic books, Scarlet Witch and Vision get married, they're hinting at their romance, like, budding, like, starting up.
Yeah, and you got a hint of it, which was like, it was subtle, so they didn't like push it too much. It was very subtle, so you get a hint of it, which was good. Like, they didn't do it too much where it was cheesy, but they had a little bit of it. And Vision's still kind of up in the air. We don't know a lot about him unless you know the history of him, but he's realizing that he does have limitations. He's not omnipotent like you assumed he was in Avengers 2, that there is things he can and can't do, and that he does have a human part to him.
Yeah, and he even says he's learning about, because he has I think it's the Mind.
The Mind Stone, yeah.
The Mind Stone. So he's learning about that. He even says in there, he's like, I'm still learning about this. All I know is that it powers me or something like that, but, I don't know everything about it. And so he's still learning out his powers, and Scarlet Witch is still learning her powers, too, which is kind of cool. So they're kind of learning as they go. And the cool thing was, even though everyone was fighting against each other, they even were still friends. Like, there's that one part that Black Widow was, fighting Hawkeye, and then they're like, so we're still friends after this. And they're like, well, yeah, of course, as long as you don't hit me too hard.
Yeah, and I think that's
Scarlet Witch just throws her into a plane.
Yeah.
That she's done.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I think that's kind of the point, too. They realize that, everyone in the storyline of it gets caught up in the moment. Everyone somewhat, in the beginning, they kind of take sides, but they're not really that hard standing on it. And then there's kind of a conflict where someone's doing something wrong, and then it just escalates. And it's just like them being in the situation, all of a sudden it goes from 0 to 10. Nobody really realizes what's happening. They just are in defense mode, and then shit happens, and at the end of it, everyone reflects on it and is like, oh my god, this doesn't need to be this way. Because no one sees that coming. You don't think that going into it, so...
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you start out something, it just gets worse and worse before, bam, all of a sudden, people are fighting, people are, well, not dead, but broken backs and stuff like that, and then it just escalates really quickly.
So the where they left it off, I thought was very interesting because I'm kind of seeing like there's not much. Everyone kind of switched to Captain America's side for the most part because the only one that's still on the side of the law is Tony. We still assume War Machine, who is paralyzed at this point, can't do much. Vision, who is technically on that side, but he seems conflicted as well. And then everyone else jumped over to the other side.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, because Black Panther was on Tony's side, but he jumped over. Black Widow jumped over to Cap's side. I don't know who else was left.
I think that's
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man. I guess he's still on Tony's side. I didn't really get what the end of the credits scene was, where it flashed in on the ceiling. What is there relevance to that? Is it just like a fun gift from Tony?
I want to say that was like in like the '70s cartoon or something. He had like a little belt, and it would shoot like the Spider-Man symbol, like
almost like a bat signal type of thing. Or
yeah, he does that in the comic books. Like I know the older ones where he like shoots something from his belt and show like the little Spider-Man like face or whatever. You know, so criminals know he's coming. I don't know.
Yeah, both of the credit scenes were cool and all, but usually they like give like a big like giveaway to the next movie to kind of like weigh your appetite.
They did. They showed Spider-Man and they said Spider-Man
will return,
kind of like the Avengers. But if you know anything about the comic books and stuff, you already know it's coming out. But I guess for the average person, maybe they don't know.
I don't even know. I think most people would just assume. Like he's back there. I don't think everyone knows.
But the average person doesn't wait until the very end either. So.
No, I think the average person is starting to. I think it's starting to get to that point where everyone.
Well, we saw like at least 30 people leave, and everyone's like yelling, "Don't leave! Don't leave!"
No, a lot of them came back. I think a lot of them went to the bathroom. A lot of people came back in.
It was long credits. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know where they're gonna go next.
So the only thing I can assume is that for Avengers 3 is that they're still divided. Like, that's how the movie ended. A team divided, not only in the legal sense, but now in the emotional sense. They are, like, I wouldn't say enemies, but there is a bitter rivalry now due to emotional conflicts. Because people got injured, people got hurt, nearly killed. So there's a big conflict there. I'm assuming maybe in part 1 of Avengers 3, that's still going to be there, but they have to join forces. They have no choice to, because Thanos shows up and is going to just kill everyone, so they have to. And then they can't do it themselves, so then it becomes an intergalactic thing where more people need to come, wherever that is, whether it's Earth or not, like Guardians of the Galaxy and other characters have to. Like, they have no choice. Like, they have to join forces and figure it out. And I'm assuming a bunch of people are going to die. I think most people assume Captain America is going to die because he didn't die in this and he does in the comics. So I think that's assumed that he would. So that's
I think honestly most of the main people are going to die. To be honest, like I think Iron Man might die at the end. I think they're going to start killing off a lot of their characters. I think they'll kill off a lot and then like somehow bring them back with whatever Doctor Strange will bring them back from. Something, I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure what part Strange is going to play in this.
But yeah, I think Avengers Infinity War Part 1 is going to be them going up against a big something and losing, and then they have to like come back and like, hey, we need to work together, let's patch things up, and then, win, obviously.
Which is an oversimplified version of it, but seeing how they handled this one, I'm pretty confident. Like I am with most movies they do, even Doctor Strange, like, I don't know what to think about it. It just seems like a just out there kind of movie, but I'm always pretty confident because they just have kind of learned the tricks in the trade of how to make a good movie. Like, they just have a better outlet now. Because that's what Disney's always done. They never really create their own material for the most part. They had Pixar, which was making movies. All the original stories like Pinocchio, Pocahontas, those are all things they took, stories they took. All, and now they have Marvel, which the stories are all written. They just got to tell it better. And it's like...
That's what they're good at. They're good at taking other people's stories and telling them really, really well so other people will enjoy it. So what do you think, what are your negatives? Or disappointments or...
I don't think I have much negative to say about it. And the only disappointment was, I think it was a dumb disappointment, but it was too short. Like, I think that I thought it was going to be much longer. When
everyone wishes for that Braveheart, like, the double VHS that you would get. It's like you have to put in the extra 4 hours long.
I thought it was going to be more like that because there was so much they were trying to cram into it. I'm glad they didn't do a lot of the backstories of characters because we know and they're going to do separate movies. So, but I thought there was going to be more to it. Like with the point where it ended, I thought, well, there's probably going to be one more thing where there's going to be one more conflict, maybe one small fight scene or something where they come to some kind of agreement or resolution, but that didn't happen, and I assume that's because they're trying to segue into the next one. But not really many complaints. There's a few minor things. Like, the only complaint I would really have is, Black Widow seems kind of out of place sometimes. That she, there's many times where she's in a fight scene and something happens, and I'm like, she would be dead. Like, she would be so dead right there. The other people are superheroes, like, I get it, but there's so many times where I'm like, no, she would be massacred. Like, at the beginning where the grenade's thrown into the
the thing, or whatever the car.
And then it goes like 5 seconds, and I'm like, I think it would have blown up by now.
Yeah.
And then she gets blown out the back door. Like, she used someone as a shield, but like, that's an armored tank, like, or an armored truck. Like, you couldn't just get blown out the back of it and be like, oh, hurt my back a little. Like I think you would have died. Yeah. So that's the only thing. Like, the rest of the movie was fine. They made her seem much more human. Like, when Scarlet Witch threw her away and she was like passed out, I'm like, yes, that seems more like what would have happened. But at the beginning, kind of like, there's different parts of it where I'm like, ugh, does she have some kind of strength here, or like, that's the only thing where I would say, like, some
body armor, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they should just show, like, oh yeah, by the way, I have a super back piece or something like that. So that's why I'm not dead. But there's just a few times like that where I'm like, okay, like, meh.
You know what? I thought, like, War Machine would have been dead for sure.
That's what I thought,
too. Like, he fell from, I don't know, thousands of feet in the air, and you think they were going to catch him. Like, it looks, they're going to catch him. Nope, they did not. You're like, they're going to catch him. They did not.
Yeah, I thought he was for sure dead. I thought there was no chance of that, him coming back, but the second he said he had a heartbeat, I'm like, okay, I guess they're not going to kill him off, but yeah, same thing where that's even still, like, you kind of assume in your mind, like, well, I guess if Tony made the suits, he knows that he had the power down. Situation happened before, so maybe he had some kind of fallout system where there's some kind of shock absorbers in the suit or something like that, where it's still like, you don't know, but you can kind of work it out in your head and be like, okay, maybe. But
yeah, maybe they thought that everyone thought he was going to die, so they're like, no, let's twist it around and keep him alive.
Oh yeah, I definitely think they thought that too. I'm sure they even probably started their own rumor. That's why they put it in the trailer, where he's like laying there kind of dead. So I think everyone always assumed it was going to be.
But they always shoot two scenes. Like, when they did the Quicksilver, they said they shot a scene where he lived and shot a scene where he died, and then it was like, at the very end, they make the decision what they want to do.
I don't think Quicksilver's dead either, because, and here's why. They showed him get, like, massacred by some bullets, but you also can assume that maybe Quicksilver has some kind of, since he's fast, he has some kind of super healing metabolism, much like Wolverine or something like that, because that may be part of his power. And they also showed him on the ship later. With Hawkeye. He wasn't moving, he was lifeless, he was laying there, but he was, remember when Hawkeye gets to the ship and he, like, lays down, he, like,
yeah.
Quicksilver's right there. And it's like, well, if he was truly, like, as dead as he should have been, like, would they have brought him on the ship? So I think, like, maybe he isn't, or maybe they had to take him somewhere and he's just in a coma or something. That it just seems like I just have this feeling that they're going to bring him back somehow.
I don't think they will, because Quicksilver's also an X-Men, and so that might just be confusing. That way they get to kill someone and then have to.
Maybe it can honestly go either way, but I think that may be it. But yeah, same thing with War Machine. Like, I thought the same thing. He definitely would have died. There's a few minor things where it's like just like that, where it's like, oh, not as believable. But again, very minor things, not enough to spoil the movie or anything. Yeah. But that's pretty much it.
I had only one minor complaint. It's so minor. It's so minor. I have to tell you about this. So so they go to, like, probably like 7 different locations, like, London, and then they'll go to, like, Berlin or something like that, or, they'll show them in, like, Kentucky. I don't know, I can't remember all the names. But anyways, most of the time they'll be like, oh, now we're in London. It'll be at the very bottom, like, oh, London or something like that. No, this one, they literally went London, and it went over the entire screen. I'm not even joking. The entire screen was like, it was screens like this much of it, all says London, as, like, people are, like, acting. So it's like, you see, like, Black Panther, like, walking or something like that, and it'll be like, London, like, it's so huge. The first time I saw it, I was like, wait, was that, like, my eyes, like, tricking me? And then they just kept on doing it. I was like, alright, I guess they decided to go with.
Which I guess, in essence, shows what a good movie it is. If that's, like, your biggest complaint, it's such a specific thing to be irritated about. But if that's all you have to complain about, then that's a pretty good movie. Like, there's not much to complain about. And I honestly want to see it again. And they did a good job of, like, taking it slow in the beginning, where not a lot was happening, and it was, like, kind of building up, and it was like, yeah. And then when the big fight scene was happening, I knew as soon as like Cap walked down the little ramp into like the airport, I'm like, shit's about to go down. Like it's gonna happen right now. But yeah, they did a good job building it up and like continuing it. And even the last fight scene with like, even when like Bucky was out of it, like between Cap and Iron Man, where he was winning, where like Cap was winning for a while, and it's like, how do you turn the tides of battle? And then he like talked to his like, what's the chick's name now?
Friday.
Friday about it, and then like learned his fight technique, and I'm like, that's smart. Like that's really smart because he could do that. There's no way. That's like really simple. He could easily notice his pattern recognition, like recognize his fight style, compute it, and then counter it. And it was like, that's pretty smart actually. And then all of a sudden, like Iron Man's winning, and then Bucky steps in and distracts him for a second, and then he takes over, and it was like, okay,
gets his arm ripped off.
Yeah. So the battle like changed sides like 2 times, like back and forth, but not in a cheesy way. Like that actually made sense, and I'm like, okay.
And every fight scene is just top notch. Like you see things you've never seen before in like a fight scene, which is always good. I like doing that, and it's just so good. Even when they went up to the huge fight with like 10, 12 of them fighting, and then they got down just to the 3. It still felt like a nice, good fight, especially since you went from that big fight down to the smaller fight. Still was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, and it was cool. Yeah, and then I can't get over like the Spider-Man scenes, especially when he was fighting like Falcon and Bucky. He was just kicking ass, by the way. Like it was so cool, like how he was doing stuff. He was just an awesome character. And I think the CGI looked a little better than it did in the trailer. Not phenomenally better, but better than the trailer showed. It looked really bad in the trailer. Now it looked like it fit. Didn't look like it
looked like when he was fighting, it was all CGI. But then remember when Iron Man tells him to stay down, and he's like, "Oh, all right, I'll stay down." That looked like an actual suit.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like Spider-Man was mostly CGI. Like most of the time you see him in a suit, it was CGI, which was fine. It didn't look bad. They did it in a way where it looked fine, but yeah, and he was definitely like the wisecracking Spider-Man that we were supposed to see all those many movies ago. That was
He's also a good Peter Parker.
Yeah,
he plays that very
very innocent kid. Like he's a kid. Like that's what he was supposed to be. He's supposed to be a high schooler. Like the original Spider-Man movies were fine, but he wasn't like he was in the comics. He wasn't like a wisecracker. Because he was kind of like Deadpool before Deadpool was Deadpool.
Yeah,
like,
that's what
he
they
was the funny
him
guy.
Off of.
He was the funny guy. He was the one making jokes. He was the one doing that. They never really did that in the movies, which is fine. There was nothing wrong with that. And also he was more of an adult in the movies. This one was like more the real Peter Parker.
The actors were like 30.
Yeah,
like, Tobey Maguire was like 30, and then Andrew Garfield was like 30, and then Tom Holland, I think he's like, I want to say he's like 18 or something.
Something like that.
He's young. He's young.
Definitely a young kid, which I thought was fine. I thought that was perfect.
And then Aunt May is like hot in it, and like Tony, like everyone thinks that when they cast like Marissa Tomei, and they're like, Aunt May's supposed to be an old lady, not a hot aunt. And then even Tony Stark always like, talks about how hot she is in the film.
Yeah, they did a good job portraying his character, especially in battle, because spider again. Speaking of Spider-Man, there's a spider crawling at her feet. He heard us talking. He wants to join. But the way they portrayed him in battle, like, he's a kid, like, you always see, like, people become superheroes, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, they know how to fight. They're ultimate warriors. But they really played him as a kid because he didn't know what he was doing. He was just kind of, like, asking for directions, asking what to do. And I'm like, it was a subtle feature where it's like, yeah, that's how it would be. If I were a teenager there, I wouldn't know what the hell to do. Like, I would just be running around saying
he's asking Iron Man, he's like, what do I do now? We went over this. Yeah. I said, tie him up with your webs. He's like, okay, where do you want me to go? Over there.
There's a lot of funny parts in it, which is good. They balanced that out too. Like the first half of it, there was nothing funny about it. It was a lot of serious stuff. Yeah, and there was a lot of jokes about it, which kind of broke the tension, which was a good balance too. Like,
can you scoot?
Yeah, that was the funniest thing. Can you move your seat up? No. That was hilarious.
You have to see it.
Yeah, when he was in his room and he sprayed him with the web, and they finished the conversation. He's like, "All right, well, get me out of this. Like, get this off me." Like, it's like that's pretty funny. There was a lot of like little subtle humor in there where they're not trying hard to make like goofy jokes, but it was funny too. So well balanced. So anyway, I think we've covered most of it. So overall, what would you give this movie score on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh man, so it's either a 9 or a 10. I can't like, I'll say a 10, but you know that screen now and the lettering now, that doesn't. No, but it's like, I don't know. It's a 9 or a 10 for me. Like either or, it's, you know, it's so hard to say. But
I would give it a 9 because there's really nothing. I wouldn't ever say it's a perfect movie that everyone's gonna love it. Obviously, it's obviously up to the interpretation of the individual. But I would say 9 because it's about as good as it can be. Like with the story they had, with the characters they had, with everything they had, they did about as good as they possibly could. Which is really saying a lot because so many movies they've had potential and just tanked, and we all know those movies. So they did pretty much better than I thought they could, and they did a well-rounded movie. But the only reason I wouldn't give it a higher score than that is because it's exponential. Every time we get a movie, they kind of get better and better and better. People are realizing how to make superhero movies realistic. The writing's getting better. The actors are getting better. The CGI is getting better. Every time there's a movie, it gets tiny bits better and better and better. And that's just movies in general. Like, over time, they get better. So... And I'm excited to see what the potential is for Avengers 3.
Yeah, well, like, you ever see a movie, like Batman v Superman, you're like, why did they do it like this when they could have done it like this? Like, you in your own head already have a better idea how they could have handled that situation better. None of that. I watched the whole thing and go, oh, everything was, like, perfect. Like, I wouldn't have done anything different. Like, I didn't even know to do this. Like, so that's why it's like, yeah, it's like a 9 or a 10 for me. I just can't see, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I'm totally excited.
It's very entertaining.
I'm totally excited to see it again. I definitely want to check it out again. Totally.
Yeah, I would definitely, like, if someone came up to me and said, hey, David, do you want to see it again, like, this weekend?
Someone said, like, hey, we're going right now, and I'll be like, hey, let me just finish up this review, and, like, let's go. Like, I'm fine with that. So, what movie are you excited to see next? Like, what's the next big movie that you're super excited for? It could be, next month, it could be 2 years from now. Like, what is your next big excitement?
I like X-Men and everything like that. I'm more excited to see Suicide Squad and Doctor Strange.
I'd say mine is Suicide Squad. I'm so excited for that. And someone pointed this out to me. I totally didn't realize. Will Smith and the chick that plays Harley Quinn, they were in the movie Focus.
Yeah.
I totally didn't recognize that character. Like, I didn't really...
It was like, movie, I watched it.
It was an okay movie, but I just thought they did well together. Like, the movie was just okay, but I thought they played well off each other. So knowing that, I'm like, wow. Like, I kind of think maybe that's what got Will Smith to do it. Like, maybe they became friends, and they're like, come on, do this with me, or something like that. But yeah, I'm very excited for that. I think that movie has great potential. I've heard great things about Jared Leto's Joker. I don't know if it'll be good or not, but I've heard talkings about he did really well. I think the chick that plays Harley Quinn did well. Will Smith's a great actor. The rest of the characters, I'm pretty sure, are going to get killed off immediately. Like, that's what Suicide Squad does.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. There's, like, a bunch of characters you don't even realize are in the suit. That there's, like, this one called Slipknot. Like, I didn't know he's in the Suicide Squad. I'm like, well, he's obviously going to die because he's not even... He's in, like, the trailer for, like, one little second. Mm-hmm. He's just like... And I'm like, I don't even know what his powers are. He, like, shoots ropes or knots or something. I don't know.
Something like that. And I'm pretty sure Will Smith's character is almost definitely going to die because I don't think he's going to do... I don't think he's going to do multiple pictures. I think he did this as a favor as to someone, and I don't think he's going to do multiple pictures. So I think he's going to voluntarily die off, like, pretty quickly. That's my assumption. I don't know that.
I think he's gonna be the main guy of the film. I think.
You think so?
I think he'll be like the main Suicide Squad. I think he'll have the most screen time.
Well, only one way to find out. But yeah, that's the one I'd say I'm most excited.
5 months now, 4 months now.
No, August. What are we in? May, April.
Are we May? May, yeah. No. So 3 months. No, 3.5.
Yeah, we are in May. So yeah, like 3 months. Not too far away. But yeah, the other movies in the year, there's big titles. This is a huge year, but I'm definitely going to see it, but they're just going to be like, all right, X-Men, Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters is going to be terrible.
I'm not going to watch that one. It's like the most disliked movie on YouTube or something like that.
No surprise. And then Doctor Strange, I could go either way. Like, I'm pretty confident Marvel, they'll do a great job, but it'll definitely be its own thing.
Have they ever made a bad movie? Honestly, it's really funny. Captain America 1, the first Avenger, was my least favorite Marvel movie. And I watched that, and then I was like, oh, it's so... Well, it was boring, and I didn't like it. And then I was like, so I go into Winter Soldier thinking it's going to be like the same. Blown away. Winter Soldier was like my favorite that I've ever seen. That and Avengers 1.
So Marvel has definitely made bad movies, but... Disney Marvel has not made bad movies. Because remember, there was...
Was that Disney at the time? Disney Marvel?
Disney came around right when they did the first Iron Man. Because they bought Marvel in 2008, and then Iron Man came out in 2008. So when the Avengers, that whole Phase 1 started, was with Disney. Because they bought them out in 2008. And then that movie was 2008. So the production might have started before that, but it was technically under Disney when it came out. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but... But keep in mind there were bad movies before that, like the original Hulk was technically a
The
Marvel
Ang
movie.
Lee, the Ang Lee one, or the Edward Norton?
Edward Norton one was good. No, the
Ang Lee, that was Universal.
It was?
Yeah, that was Universal. Universal owned the rights to it, and so then Marvel got it back.
Yes,
and then they made the Edward Norton version.
But that's what I mean. Like, until Disney bought Marvel, Marvel could not make their own movies. So that's where the whole thing about Fox...
I think Iron Man 1 was made just through Marvel, though.
But I think when it came out, it was owned by Disney. So I'll have to look up the exact dates of it, but it was right on that line. So I don't know. It wouldn't make too much sense for them to have done that and then just ease right into a whole different company owning it. So I think they may have had their hands in it at some point. So I don't know what the story is behind it. I'll have to look it up. But I think they played a part in it. So there are bad Marvel movies, but like I was saying, not bad Disney Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Because Marvel has rights distributed
they just get better
everywhere.
and better and better.
And I can't wait for the day when Marvel has all their rights back, when they have Fantastic Four back and X-Men back, and then they can do the Avengers with like
all they
everyone
don't have is, well, they have Spider-Man back, kind of.
Kind of.
All they need to do is go up to Fox and be like, you know what, Fox, here's $1 billion, give us our X-Men back. $2 billion, $4 billion, it's chump change. They can make that up for like 2 movies.
Yeah, I don't get it either. Like the same thing. Like I think they should do the same thing with Spider-Man, where it's technically a cameo, because Sony still owns the rights. But I'd be fine with that. Like throw Wolverine for a little bit, have him do a cameo for the Avengers. Like fine.
They bought the Star Wars and Lucasfilms and all that kind of stuff for $4 billion, right? So they got Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Off the first Star Wars movie alone, they made almost $2 billion, and that's just box office. Then you have all the merchandise and all the DVD sales and all that stuff. One movie alone, boom, made all your money back off of one movie.
You know what's funny about Civil War is that Spider-Man, they only got him for production rights, nothing else. Because I was in Target the other day and I was looking at like the action figures, no Spider-Man. They cannot make him. They cannot make it. Same thing in my room. I have little HeroClix, the whole set of them. No Spider-Man.
Same with X-Men. X-Men only owns the movie rights. They can't make a TV show, and they can't make any video games. Well, I mean, they can. People can make it, but all that money goes to Marvel, or Disney or whatever. They can't action figures, all that kind of stuff. So that's what they're saying. Like, you know, originally with the Fantastic Four being at Fox, like, dude, why don't you give Fox like TV rights to the X-Men, and then you just take back Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I agree. I wish they'd do that too. I don't understand.
But apparently they have bad blood or something.
But you know, as long as Fox owns Deadpool now, they're never gonna give it back. Like now that they have that, that's their golden egg. Like they can just keep doing it.
They took Gambit off.
Yeah, I know. Like I don't know how to feel about that because Gambit's one of my favorite Marvel characters. Like he's in my top like 3. But at the same time, when I was hearing about it, I think
it was gonna be terrible.
I didn't know if it was gonna be terrible, but I just didn't have faith in it, and Fox, like I said, doesn't do the best job at portraying it, and then they change actors to Tatum, which he's fine, but I'm like, ooh.
Then like the director dropped out or something.
Yeah,
but then
the director's even like, yeah, I don't want to do it. It's like, ugh. So I hope that at some point they do reintroduce Gambit in some way. I was hoping he'd be in the new X-Men. Because it's all the 90s characters that are from like the 90s show, like that are in this movie now.
Maybe he'll be in Wolverine again. Wolverine 3.
Maybe, because I liked him in even though that movie sucked, I still liked his character in that Wolverine movie.
It's gonna be a merge of Old Man Logan series, but it's gonna have Professor X in it. So Patrick Stewart is coming back.
Nice.
To be in.
That's cool. I like that together.
Wolverine 3 or.
But yeah, I thought Gambit would have fit perfect because he would have been with Psylocke because Rogue is obviously, they didn't pair them up together at any point, so I thought maybe he'd partner up with Psylocke because at some point he was with her in the comics, so I thought maybe that'd be perfect because she looks cool in the movie and they could have done a really badass Gambit, but you know, it's not his time. It's not his time to research, so hopefully he will at some point or another. Alright, so that was an incredibly long video. We talked about a lot of random stuff, but that was our review.
It's like box.
Let us know what you guys thought about it. You don't have to listen to our whole rant on it, but basically it's just to get the discussion going. Talk in the comments. What did you guys think about the movie? What did you like about it? Are there people out there that didn't like it? I'd actually love to hear from you guys if there are people that disliked the movie and why you disliked it. I'm totally curious to hear about that. Or if people just loved it, what your thoughts are in the future. Let's talk it out. Let's hear it in the comments. So, again, this has been David Wilson and the Beardy Nerd. So, thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video. Love you all. Peace.
Oh, my butt.